been searching for. I'm gonna cover some information here on the Nissan VG30DE. It's gonna be some pretty basic information. I'm not gonna try to get into too many technical aspects like engine architecture and dimensions and things like that. Instead, what I want to do is just kind of cover some fundamentals and some basics, especially describing the differences between these two engines I have sitting here beside me. The reason being, this is actually going to help a lot of you guys sourcing a new engine for your Z32 if you currently have one that is, very damaged. It's got a hole in the block, or you bent the valves and you're not looking to, do some major engine repairs. First off, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with major differences in the revisions that they made for the 93-94 year range. And then from there, I'm going to cover the differences between these two engine configurations as they sit. Now, some of you have already spotted the differences, and some of you who watched the previous video, you already know a little bit of the differences. So anyways, let's get right into it and start with the changes they made in, I want to say 93 to the 94 model year. So we'll say this is our 1990 through 93, and we'll say this is the 94 through 95. It could also be 93 through 95, depending. I'm not exactly sure when the production date was that they made the actual switch. So over on the left, this is the S1. This is the early style. What you'll have, most importantly on the S1, is you'll have early style injectors. Now this engine's already been updated with the phase 2 injectors, but the phase 1 injectors, they got the square plug on them, and they have a longer but a single injector pintle, whereas the series 2 injectors have a round plug, and the injector pintle has 4 little nozzles to spray from. Also, another difference you're going to have is the crank angle sensor. This is a Mitsubishi crank angle sensor. Again, square plug on the side here. And the updated version is the Hitachi crank angle sensor, which has a round plug on the side. Now, you can interchange these between the engines. I highly recommend using the Hitachi, the later style crank angle sensor. All you need to do is get that round plug connector, which they sell at, I believe, Concept Z or Z1. One or two, maybe both, sells that connector. You just wire it in, plug for plug, wire for wire, same pins, or the same pins between the two. Now, also you got the cylinder heads themselves. The castings are different. The phase 2 has better intake and exhaust ports versus the phase 1, and this is the same. This is also true for the twin turbo version. However, twin turbo cylinder heads are different than non-turbo cylinder heads. When you look at the castings side by side, twin turbo ports are bigger than the naturally aspirated ports. So if at all possible, you want the phase 2 twin turbo ports. Those are technically the best in stock form. However, if you're looking to get some machine work, if you're looking to get porting done, the phase 2 naturally aspirated version has more casting area to be worked away. So you can actually do better by sending phase 2 naturally aspirated cylinder heads to the machine shop. Also, the cams and variable valve timing sprockets are different between phase 1 and phase 2. I wouldn't suggest interchanging them. Matter of fact, when you go to get aftermarket camshafts, usually they want the phase 2 cores back. So just keep that in mind when you're thinking about doing some cam swaps or anything like that, or looking to get your variable valve timing sprockets replaced. Now, as far as the sprockets are concerned, and when it comes to those aftermarket degreed cam sprockets where you can change your valve event timing, not the duration or necessarily the, you can't change the duration or the ramp in or out, but you can change your overlap and that opening and closing event timing, which can actually really help out in certain situations. Mostly, I recommend going with the exhaust camshaft sprockets. Those will get you the best yielded results for what you're looking for. Now, this isn't going to change your peak horsepower. What this is going to do is it's going to change when the power comes in the rev range. You can make the torque come in sooner, or you can make the torque come in later, depending on your configuration and what you're trying to do. This is really important when you're deciding what modifications to make that best suit your application. So a road race engine is not going to have the same camshaft profile and characteristics as a drag race engine. Let's ratchet back, bring it back to the differences between the engines that I have here. We went over what you'll find between phase 1 and phase 2. The oil pump might be different. You might have a twin turbo oil pump in your naturally aspirated phase 1 engine. All phase 2 engines are supposed to have a redesigned oil pump for less parasitic drag on the rotating assembly, just to help with power delivery in the naturally aspirated variant. Now, as far as the Z32 and J30 configurations, this is what's going to be really important for you guys trying to source an engine. In the Infiniti J30, you'll find a phase 2 VG30 every time. You'll never find a phase 1 VG30 in a J30, so that's a really cool aspect. But however, major difference is what you're going to find. The J30 will have a front sump oil pan, which means it has a front sump pickup tube. You will not be able to use that on your J30 and your Z32. You're going to have to take that off and swap it over. Fairly simple. The more difficult thing, the thing that people overlook, is that the J30 has a dipstick over here on the left side, or on the right side of the engine, and that's to gain access to the front where the sump is. You're going to want to take that out and grab the dipstick tube off of your Z32 engine, which is located in the rear and on the opposite side of the engine. You'll notice there's a brass plug located in the corresponding locations, right? So you're going to want to swap the plug over, swap the dipstick over. Make sure you get them in the right locations, otherwise you'll be hating life and won't be able to check your oil level. And next up, we've got the exhaust manifolds, right? Have to use the Z32 exhaust manifolds or headers, depending on what you got. Also, you got the oil filter tree. On a Z32, you'll have two different types of oil filter trees, one for the naturally aspirated version, one for the twin turbo version. Twin turbo version just has your feed lines that go to your turbochargers. You can modify a naturally aspirated oil tree for oil cooling or turbochargers, which is pretty cool. But also, you got on the J30, there is no oil filter tree. There is no adapter. It's just the adapter pipe, the threaded adapter pipe that goes in straight into the block. So the oil filter is directly on the side of the engine, and you don't necessarily have to change over the oil filter tree, but you want it. We will cover modifying the check valves in these engines in the coming video, so stay tuned for that. Heater pipes. Okay, at the back of the engine, you have the heater pipes that go to the heater core. For those of you who are ditching the heat, this is a non-issue. You're just going to plug them off anyways. But for those of you who want to keep heat, you're going to want to keep your Z32 heater core pipes. The J30 heater core pipes will kind of put them in a real tough position, and they're not going to really sit happy. You're going to run the risk of damaging the hoses, just over time usage and vibrations and such. So I highly recommend grabbing the Z32 heater pipes if at all possible. And then you also have your engine mount brackets. I'm pretty sure I already said the engine mounts are different, but it's specifically the brackets themselves. You need the Z32 engine mount brackets. The J30 brackets are a little more narrow, and the angles where the engine mounts themselves bolt up to are different. So you're not going to get a J30 engine mount bracket to work with your Z32 cross member. However, just a side note, I did use the J30 engine mount brackets in my 3rd gen Camaro swap. The pitch of those, that pitch where the engine mounts actually mount up to, more closely matched the cross member in the Camaro, so that was pretty cool. From there, we're going to get into the intake plenum. Now, the plenums themselves are a little bit different, not super different, but a little bit different. You'll notice right away that there are throttle body covers on the J30 intake plenum. And also at the back, you'll notice right away that the balance tube is a little bit bigger, a little bit longer, and it carries out and hangs over the rear of the intake more. This is really, really important. You're going to want to keep that even on your Z32 because it gains access to the ignition coils. You will no longer have to pull your balance tube to do spark plugs. That's an awesome little modification that you get with a J30 engine. The idle air control valve also has the inlet facing the rear of the engine. and that's no good in a Z32 because that's right up against the firewall. So you're going to want to take the idle air control valve or the entire intake plenum. I highly recommend just using the entire Z32 intake plenum and transfer it over onto the J30 lower intake manifold. The phase 1 intake plenum will mate up to a phase 2 lower. There's really no difference there, except for clearancing the injector for your number 1 cylinder over here. The number 1 injector, the connector will not slide on. You'll have no way of being able to bolt the plenum down without breaking the injector or even the injector connector or even the injector. So to do that, you're going to want to clearance your intake manifold, and in a coming video I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. But that pretty much concludes it. From there, things are pretty much exactly the same. You'll notice right away that the blocks are pretty much identical. You can swap just about anything over between the two. So that's going to help me out. Even if these cylinder heads are junk, I can still use this block with the phase 2 cylinder heads. Those will bolt right on. And I'm actually kind of excited about that. I think that's what I'm going to do. Okay, so let's get right into it. I'll start by showing you guys a few of the products that I used during the engine disassembly phase. Mainly being some gloves. You want to protect your hands. I've worked with a lot of old timers, and they spend a lot of time at their toolbox with super glue putting their hands back together because of all the chemical exposure that they've had over the years. So I cannot stress enough, use gloves when you're using chemical products and when you're working around engines. Also, blue shop towels. A penetrant oil, I like to use Croil. This tested really well up against others in Popular Mechanics many years ago. Came in second only to a homebrew of acetone and transmission fluid. That's going to be used for breaking some bolts free and breaking up this rust on mostly the external parts. I'll use WD-40 on the internal engine parts. When I pop the valve covers off, I'll go ahead and spray the camshafts and everything down with these, because I know this engine's been sitting for a while. All that engine oil has drained to the bottom of the pan. So, well, it has drained down through the engine. I'm sure there's a light film, but not much. So, that being said, I'm also going to use Marble Mystery Oil. I've really seen this thing do some amazing things in engines that have sat with water in them. It really turns the rust into like mush. You know, it makes a rusted up engine very easy to work with and actually savable. So this is going to be the first thing that I want to use. We'll take the intake plenum off and gain access to the rest of the engine, and then I'll pull the spark plugs out and pour a little bit of this down into each cylinder. If you didn't see in the earlier videos, I've already gone through the trouble of removing a lot of these parts just to gain access to the engine harness and be able to remove everything from the engine to remove it from the car. So we've got our balance tube and we've got our fuel feed lines, which sit on top of the intake plenum there. And then we've got the plenum right here. Lift that off. Show you guys the underside. So these would have been your coolant matrix pipes here, all in this area. Again, this is cold weather provision stuff. You don't necessarily need it for race car application or fair weather driving. EGR delete, pretty cool. Crankcase ventilation. It's going to be pretty much the same thing on this side too. You got your EGR, crankcase ventilation, coolant matrix. Throttle bodies, dual throttle bodies, got to be adjusted properly. Got to open at the right time, same time, and they got to open at the same pitch too. That's very important. We'll go over throttle body adjustment in our reassembly phase of things. This guy back here. Got our intake plenum off. Now we can start going at this engine here. As you can see, it's got the phase 2 injector update. And just taking a peek down in there. I don't know if you can see. No, not quite. I need a flashlight. But things are a little rusty, so we'll go ahead and start applying some of our chemicals. Let's go ahead and apply some oil to these, some of the hardware out here, huh? So, yeah, pretty much everywhere. This will do a real good job of actually starting to clean some of these parts. All right, spark plug tool. Go ahead and pull them out of there. Remember, we're still in discovery. I have no idea what this looks like. Hey, not bad. Looks like I wasn't getting any fuel, huh? Maybe a little bit. Maybe they're spraying some something down in there. You know what? I'm gonna stop right where I'm at because I'm gonna turn my compressor on and I want to shoot a bunch of air down in there. That way I can get any debris out. Doesn't fall into the cylinder. That's a better way of doing it. Yeah, that's what I'll do. All right, there we go. Compressor's all aired up, so let's crank this out. Continue on. Oh, okay. Yeah, issue. We got an issue here. So right here we got a Bosch Iridium plug, and right here we've got what appears to be an NGK copper plug. It's not even a V-power. So not good at all. You don't want to mix and match spark plugs. It's just really not recommended. Try and get as much of a balance and power out of each cylinder as possible. Okay, yeah, and you'll find this a lot too. The rearmost spark plugs won't be changed. Right here we got what appears to be my favorite kind of plug. This is an NGK G-Power, which is a platinum plug, and it's burnt up pretty good. So that would have a hard time firing, and the increased gap is an increase in resistance, and it makes your coils work harder. So try to keep up on your maintenance there. Another NGK copper. Bosch plug, which doesn't look too bad actually. Okay, interesting. A few different spark plug, couple brands and 2 types. Well, 3 types. There was iridium, there was platinum, and there was copper core all in this engine. There's our tube guides and an extra little insulator. All right, I'm going to start with a cap full down each cylinder. Give that a second to drip and drain down while I undo the other side. Next application, Wish I didn't have such a massive funnel, but it is what it is. Pour that down in there. Well, anyways, I got some rust buildup on the backside of the valves. So instead of using the marble mystery oil right away, because I'm trying to get through doing the cylinders, I'm going to spray some WD-40 down on top of the back sides of the intake valves through the lower intake manifold. And as a matter of fact, I'll probably do 2 caps into each cylinder. Go ahead and do 2 applications and work our way back, adding 1. Okay, same thing on the other side. We'll just do 2 applications. Well, that should pretty much do it for that. My next step, I'm going to go ahead and take the cam covers off, and I'm going to spray the camshafts and lifters and all that down with WD-40. All right, cool. So we'll start with the intake cam covers, which is a number 3 Phillips head. And here's my method for you know, the do-it-yourselfers. If you don't have an impact driver, you can always tap on the end of the screw, just lightly with a hammer, not so much that you're going to break your screwdriver, but just tap as you turn. You can do the same thing for the injector hold down bolts. Pull them up from the rear first. It's all right. Okay. Not great, but not terrible. Looks okay, actually. Stacking them right there for now. Not bad. Well, hit them with WD-40 anyways. Next up, 12mm on the exhaust side cam covers. Oh, take it back, 10mm. Those guys are glued on. So lightly pry with a screwdriver or a pry bar. There we go, there it is. On the outside, pry from the outside, there's really small tabs. And actually give it a little jiggle, that seems to help. It's gonna be tough. You may even have to tap with a hammer. That does it. And we can work it out from there. So that's the spot right there that I was hammering at. This little tab right here. You'll see that it's not actually on the sealing surface. It's right up above it. So you can tap on that It's pretty strong. It's kind of gusseted a little bit. Yeah, see, that's what I was afraid of right there. So you can see some corrosion on the back side of the baffle in here for the crankcase ventilation. That's not good. The engine's just been sitting too long. Okay. Same thing. Also, I'll take this time to note that it's on the outside, it's on the inside. All right. Let's go ahead and drop one more application of mystery oil down in each cylinder. One more application of WD-40 on top of the cylinder heads for good measure. All right. Well, now we got everything as lubricated as possible. This is pretty crucial when you're taking apart an older engine that's been sitting around for a very long time. You don't know what kind of rust is going on down inside there, so it's best to try and break that stuff up and break it down as much as possible. That way it doesn't cause too much friction, scoring, scratching, anything when you're going ahead and take it apart. Now, why that's really important is because before the camshafts are to be removed, I want to turn this engine over to top dead center, because regardless of what's going to happen, whenever the timing belt comes off, you're going to have camshafts that are going to relax to their, they're going to spin to their most relaxed position. And it's best to start from top dead center. That way it's easier taking everything apart. You're pretty much going by the manual at that point. So in the meantime, I'm going to let it sit there and do its thing and pull the fuel rail off. Now, be careful with your fuel rail hardware. You've got these little black insulator guys. Those are really crucial. Those are important to put back. They set the fuel rail height, and they also insulate from vibrations. I'll lift the fuel rail on out of there. Now I don't know anything about these fuel injectors, so all the injectors that I have, all these naturally aspirated injectors, are gonna go to a shop called Coastal Marine. They've got a real nice injector servicing station there, so I'm gonna have them go through them, clean them, and find me a good float match set. Here's a common issue that I see on VG30s that I've been in. Go ahead and show you what I'm looking at. Oh yeah, bro, that is no bueno. See, what we got right here is when he went to install the injector rail under the seats, it pinched the seat and created some gaps in here. Now, that right there will lead to a crucial intake leak. It'll pull air down past the past those little cracks and cause it to run a little lean, and yeah, we don't like that. The ECU will try to compensate for that, and it won't run right at all. So that's one of the major issues that I've found with Z32s when I go to take them apart. And people try to do the injector update, and as well as they try to get it done, unfortunately, that just seems to be a major issue. You can see that some of these just they're really not looking all that great, you know. But hopefully, what I can do is take them out and let's see. Yeah, hopefully I can just take them out and flip them. I'll either that. Oh no, wait. We won't even do that, because we won't be able to use this intake manifold with these cylinder heads. It doesn't work like that. Have to use that intake manifold with these cylinder heads. So that's what's going to end up happening. So this right here is that's neither here nor there. No big deal. But you can reorder these from Z1 or Concept Z Performance, or both, one of the two.